This is a 2025 Buick Enclave Avenir, the third generation of Buick's three-row crossover SUV and the flagship vehicle of the brand. And it's also the biggest Enclave yet. This one stretches nearly 3 inches longer than the outgoing model and nearly 6 inches longer than the first generation Enclave, which first arrived in 2008. In 2025, you choose between 3 trims of Enclave: Preferred, Sport Touring, and this Avenir. Buick used the Wildcat EV concept as inspiration for the design of this car, and it is a huge improvement there. But all I really want to know is, how does it drive? Let's find out. I review all kinds of cars, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a front-wheel drive 2025 Buick Enclave Preferred is $46,395. If you want to add all-wheel drive, that adds $2,000 to the price, and that's true of all 3 trims. Jumping into a front-wheel drive Enclave Avenir raises that price to $59,395. And my test car does have the Super Cruise package and all-wheel drive and cost $65,125. Okay, with that, now is a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside and under the hood of this third generation big Buick. Looking at the front of the car, obviously this is a big departure from the outgoing model. First thing you'll notice is that Buick now proudly puts the Buick emblem right on the hood, right on the body. That is true of all Buick models now. And from there, you have this nice slope into the front fascia, which has this big and broad grille. And then you see these very long and slender lamps up here, up top, and then the main bulbs down here stacked vertically. This is all LED up front here, and I think it's a sharp design, and it's definitely following the trend as well, where you see a slim, narrow, more squint-eyed look up top, and then additional beams down low. The hood itself actually functions as the base of a fender flare, almost right at the top, with this interesting cut off of the side that blends into the A-pillar. Then you have a couple of more interesting cuts as you go in. The hood actually insets down a little bit as you go to the center. But I'm definitely more curious to show you what's underneath it. There you have it, your turbocharged 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, 328 horsepower, 326 pound-feet of torque. It is transversely mounted or side to side like that. This is inherently a front engine, front wheel drive platform, although this particular car does have all wheel drive. Battery's nice and easy to see right here. Interesting that the coolant overflow tank is actually behind it. Here's your airbox right here, and then tubing that flows around. The turbocharger is actually behind it right there. Finally, windshield washer fluid is really easy to get to. It's right here in the driver's side corner right here. Looking at the Enclave in profile, this is the least amount of change you get over the outgoing generation. It's still a perfectly clean shape, and it is a very long shape as well. And it's also a nice color. Buick calls it Moonstone Gray Metallic Paint. It is a standard color, and it is one of several standard colors offered on the Avenir Enclave. I appreciate seeing that. And I do also like this brushed aluminum roof rail as well. One thing about this SUV is it doesn't feel cramped or anything like that. The shape has time to just kind of flow out. And one of the reasons for that is that this thing is very, very long. The 2025 Buick Enclave is longer, wider, and taller than the outgoing model. This is roughly the same length as a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen so you can check those out. You can see that it is very long and indeed quite wide as well. And I'll let you know that I have more information in the description. One other neat trick about the Avenir is as you approach it, it will light up. It will give you the interior lights and the interior ambient lights as you approach the car. It's a nice little welcome to your Buick kind of a thing. it's pretty much impossible to see in the middle of the day. Here, let me show it to you at night. You are looking at a 22-inch wheel, which is standard for the Avenir edition of the Enclave. You can in fact get 22-inch wheels on all three trims, Preferred, Sport Touring, and this Avenir, but this is the only trim where it's standard. Standard wheel on the other trims are 20-inch wheels. And yes, this is of course a square setup. The wheel and tire in back is the same size as what's in front. Looking at the car from the back, I believe this is the easiest spot to visually see just how wide this thing is. And I think it's designed well here as well. First of all, the taillights run straight across the width of the car. And again, these are LED lights. You do have a trailer hitch. It is mounted right here when you get the towing package. And there is a little bit of just unnecessariness right here with these rather loud dual exhaust tips right here. Now you do have one pipe that goes to the back, but it does split. It is two mufflers and two exhaust tips. And those guys, this is all real right here. Nothing about this is fake. So I'm actually ultimately pretty okay with it. And because this Buick is so big, it does actually provide quite a lot of space. Of course, it's a power opening tailgate because why not? And when you open it, it reveals 23 cubic feet of space. Pretty darn good for a 3-row SUV. And you do have a bit more space underneath the floor right here. And beneath that, under here, if you remove these screws right here, you do actually have an 18-inch spare tire under here. Because this is an Avenir, standard equipment is power folding third and second row seats. This is an option on the Preferred and Sport Touring trims, but standard here. Now, they are not one-touch buttons, but they are buttons, and once you fold them both down, you have 57 cubic feet of storage. And if you need more space than this, it is still touch of a button easy. Press these two buttons, and the second row folds flat to give you 98 cubic feet of storage and room for you and a passenger. Yeah, it's all pretty nice. And I'm sure plenty of room for my bike, but let's find out. I mean, yeah, very easy. Plenty of room lengthwise, plenty of room widthwise. My bike fits with no problem at all. All right, let's check out the inside. First thing I'm going to do actually is start the car because there's some things to show you in the second row with it running. Push button starts right here. And with all the seats back up, you can see the different controls on the seats. You adjust the seats fore aft manually with this lever right here. This one folds the seat down manually. And this one, if you give it a firm press, is what pushes the seat out of the way to access the third row. Now, you can seat 3 in the third row. This is a 7-passenger car. Oof. I am 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and I have about negative an inch of knee room. I'm firmly pressed against the seat back here. You definitely would not want to put 3 adults back here, and my knees are definitely bent more than 90 degrees. That's enough back here. The second row, as you can see, is much more comfortable. We do have captain chairs here. We do have our own personal armrest right here. And we have a third zone of climate control, hence why I wanted to start the car. I am still 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and now I have a good 3 inches of knee room. And remember, I did move this seat up a few positions before I even sat down. And I do have headroom, and I do have good thigh support as well. Seat bottoms are nice and high, so this is a very comfortable place to be. put all that together and I have less than a 90-degree bend in my knees. The Avenir also gets heated seats for the second row on both sides, and beneath that you have two more USB Type-C charge ports and AC power. Here's another look at the nice two-tone interior color with what looks like real wood to me. You have this nice polished metal piece that blends into the door handles right there. We do have 2-position seat memory for the driver's seat and some other controls right there. Usual controls on the door there. And here's another way to open and close your power liftgate. You do have power adjustable seats right there, but this is not lumbar, or not just lumbar anyway. This is a seat massager. The Buick Avenir gets heated seats, ventilated seats, and seat massage. And you can both electrically adjust both the tilt and telescope of the steering right there. You get a nice and thick steering wheel rim in the Enclave. Grips really well. And you do have this set of lights right at the top of the wheel and this little sensor right here, because this Buick is optioned with Super Cruise, and that's what those buttons are for. You do also have plenty of cruise control options to the left of the steering. There's your Super Cruise on off, for example, and more controls to the right, including a heated steering wheel. And the heated steering wheel is standard equipment on the Buick Enclave. You do also have shift paddles, upshift on the right, downshift on the left. The controls to the left of your steering, this is really interesting. Electric park brake. These are your drive modes right here. Here's your auto hold if you're on a decline and you want to hold the car. This is your all-wheel drive button. By push of a button, you can change from front to all-wheel drive. It's not automatic. They give the drivers control there. I find that really interesting and in a lot of ways really nice. Here's your auto start stop button right here, and then the brightness adjustment for the lights, the ambient lighting in here. But the main show here is this widescreen 30-inch curved display, which functions as both the digital instrument cluster and the center display. This is a beautiful, elegant screen, and because this is an Avenir, we also have a head-up display. This is optional on the other trims, but standard here. Standard across the board is wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, and a wireless smartphone charger right down there. Your Prindle is actually part of the console right here. Push button for park, push toward you and up to put it in reverse, toward you and down to put it in drive. And when you put it in reverse or drive, the camera system automatically lights up, and as you can see, you have a lot of different options of what to look at. You also, built into the center display, have Google built in, which means you get Google Assistant, Google Play Store, and Google Maps. At the base of the screen, you can see the first 2 zones of our 3-zone climate control, and you can see I can just touch the screen to make adjustments here. Heated seat, ventilated seats off, but I do also have physical buttons just beneath that if you prefer to adjust things that way. And if you do adjust the temperature, you can easily press it and tell it to sync. And tucked down here, I do have another USB Type-C and a USB Type-A port right there. Beneath that, this is your power button and volume knob for the stereo controls. That's just above this small tray right here. And beneath that, a couple of nice big and deep cup holders. Past that, we do have plenty of storage in our lower center console with a removable tray right here. Looking up, we do have controls for the panoramic moonroof, including sliding it open, tilting it up, and electrically controlling the privacy panel. Lovely. We do also have a glasses holder right behind that. The panoramic moonroof is standard on the Avenir, optional on the other trims. Oh, and if your rear view is blocked in any way, you can just flip this and get the rear view camera instead. This functions as a screen. Of course, during the day, it's really hard to tell right now, but we do also have lovely ambient lighting in the Buick. Here, let me show you in the dark. All right, let's talk drive modes. In a way, there's an extra drive mode in the sense that you can turn on and off all-wheel drive at the push of a button, but right next to that, we do have the drive mode controller right here. I start toggling through that. You'll see that we have Touring, Sport, snow and ice, and off-road modes. We will be spending the vast majority of our time in the touring driving mode, but definitely touch on sport. But to do that, we got to get back to the drive, so let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Where does 328 horsepower and 326 pound-feet of torque come from? Well, as I showed you under the hood, the one and only engine offered in the Enclave is a turbocharged 2.5-liter inline 4-cylinder. It does have dual overhead cams, variable valve timing, and direct fuel injection. But it does not have any kind of hybrid anything. It also happily runs on regular gasoline. And this new engine is a power and torque increase over the outgoing unit. However, that was a naturally aspirated 3.6-liter V6. It made 310 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque. And it also did that in a more smooth, linear fashion. I have a feeling that some would probably prefer that engine over this one, even though this one comes with a power and definitely a torque advantage. I'm guessing that 3.6-liter would have had a tough time meeting the ever stricter emissions regulations that the federal government imposes. You do also get better city fuel economy with this new engine and transmission combination. It's a new 8-speed automatic transmission, by the way. But highway fuel economy is actually a tiny bit worse if you're looking all-wheel drive to all-wheel drive. All that said, Buick did tune this engine really well. Considering that it's a turbocharged engine, power is delivered smoothly and fairly linearly as well. This new 8-speed transmission also shifts quickly and shifts smoothly. And I do really like the fact that it is just a simple push button to choose between front and all-wheel drive when you have the all-wheel drive system. If I floor the accelerator, not a bad kick down, and then I do get good punch. Considering how big this Buick is, that has more thrust, more acceleration than I expected. And that was just in the touring driving mode. If I switch it to sport, floor the accelerator again, yeah, yes, that's good. And we have good mid-range grunt as well. Generally, I'm quite happy with how this engine is tuned and the flexibility of this engine. The pull you get, even at lower RPMs, is respectable. And out of a push of a button, give it a couple of seconds, and now I'm in all-wheel drive. Floor the accelerator again. Well, I'll slow down a little first. And you still get good pull, and obviously not a hint of wheel spin. Here, I'll come to a complete stop. Yeah, not a hint. Not even the tiniest bit of wheel slip, and we're just off and running. It's good pull. Now, when you're in all-wheel drive mode, there is more drivetrain loss. You're spinning all four wheels, not just the front two, but it still feels strong. And if you're in inclement weather, loose gravel or snow or whatever, you have way more traction. Overall, I would say I'm quite happy with this powertrain. I was a little nervous when I saw how big this SUV was and how small the displacement was of a 4-cylinder engine in it, but it has proven me wrong. And it delivers respectable fuel economy considering there's no hybrid anything involved. You get 19 miles per gallon in the city, 24 miles per gallon on the highway, 21 combined. If you instead go with a front-wheel drive only Buick Enclave, those numbers actually improve more than I expected. I'll go ahead and put those numbers up on the screen so you can check those out. While fuel economy numbers are incredibly important, it's not nearly as much fun as accelerating. Of course I had to test that. Let me show you right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. I do have the Enclave in the sport driving mode, and I do have traction control off, and I still have it in the front wheel drive mode. I did a couple of quick tests and it didn't seem to break traction even with traction control off in front wheel drive mode. We're going to see if that's the case here right now. Okay, coming to a complete stop. Bit of brake torque. About, almost 3,000 RPM off the brake. Yeah, no traction brake. Oh, there we go. Nice. Yes, yes, good pull. Fast shifts from the transmission too. I'm pleasantly surprised. Wow, that's better pull than I expected. Now, it is a bit of a light launch. It kind of deliberately tempers the amount of throttle you really get. That's definitely not full power at launch. We definitely would have broken traction had it been. When you do, you get stronger than I expected acceleration from this 2025 Buick Enclave. And briefly, I do want to tell you, I've played around with traction control on, traction control off, front wheel drive, all wheel drive. It all generally seem to accelerate about the same. All right, let's dig into the chassis. This is a new platform, but this is the exact same wheelbase as it was before, 120.9 inches, which is a long wheelbase. This is a very big crossover SUV. It is also a four-wheel independent suspension, and because this is the Avenir, this has adaptive shock absorbers, so it is an adjustable suspension if you change from the touring to sport modes. Off-road, snow and ice as well. In the touring mode, it rides perfectly pleasantly, absorbing all the bumps and lumps in the road with no trouble at all. And the steering is weighted reasonably nicely as well. If anything, it is a little bit too soft. It does just wander and roll around just a little bit much. It just feels a tiny bit underdamped for me. And the front end response is a little bit slow. This is a big SUV. It weighs more than 2.5 tons. That said, if you put it in the sport driving mode, things do firm up nicely, and I still think the ride is perfectly compliant. The sport driving mode would be a great place for the touring driving mode, and then for the sport driving mode, you could go one level firmer again. Another huge positive for this new Enclave is cabin isolation. This thing is shockingly quiet and comfortable. I really enjoy the seats. I mean, I love getting a massage, let's be real. And that's of course on top of the heated seats, the ventilated seats, and the heated steering wheel. And that's also on top of the really easy to see, nice big display here with all the controls. And that's on top of Google Assistant. That makes all of this a very comfortable car to cruise in. And that's true on roads like this and the interstate. I did test it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate. See how this Buick feels on the open road. But first, I wanted to quickly show you the controls I have for cruise control. Cruise control on off is right here. Cancel's right here. Reset and set are right here. This is not cruise control. This is a button you press for voice command. And this actually doesn't have anything to do with cruise control as well. This is the L in Prindle. If you want a low gear, you press this button on the steering right there. Fun little thing. But back to cruise control again. This is how you set distance for the adaptive mode of cruise control. And this is what turns on and off Super Cruise right there. Super Cruise, you can see that it's lit when this is green right here. You can see that it's ready when it's blue right here. And then this little guy right here is a sensor that looks to see that you, the driver, are paying attention. I'm going to press this button right here so that I do have the assistance screen up so I can see what the car sees while we're driving. But unlike usual, I'm not going to show you that, because if I do, then I'm blocking this thing right here and Super Cruise will shut off because it doesn't know that I'm paying attention. Okay, with all that, now let's get on the road. All right, getting on the interstate now. I do have it back in the touring driving mode. I do still have it in front wheel drive mode, not all wheel drive. And I will of course have Super Cruise on once we get up to speed. Cruise control is on. Cruise control is set. Super Cruise is on. And when I turn Super Cruise on, my hands are off the wheel and they can stay off the wheel. And I have it set to go faster than we're going right now. So it's going to automatically change lanes for me because it sees that the lane is open and that I can go faster in that lane. All done. I didn't have to touch a thing for that. I do also have the assistance screen on. It does show that I have a car in front of me, and it does also show that I have it set to the minimum adaptive distance. It is one lane of visual, not 3 lanes of visual, but because I have Super Cruise, I don't know, it almost feels irrelevant to me. Obviously, my hands can be off the wheel and they can stay off the wheel as long as the car sees that I'm looking ahead It's not bothered, and it knows this road. This is a couple of the 750,000 miles of road that GM says that Super Cruise now knows about. So there we are. I just got another buzz. It says it's going to change lanes again so that we can go even just a touch faster. So this is great. This is the level of automation that I feel starts getting worth something when you're in heavy traffic, and even when it becomes a little bit stop and go, those kind of things, your stress level can be lower because the car is doing the vast majority of the work for you. And if you want to keep your hands off the wheel, no problem at all. You want to rest your arms, whatever. You want to go grab a quick drink of tea, all of that is A-okay, as long as it sees that you're looking at the road and paying attention. Moreover, Buick built a fantastic highway cruiser here. The Enclave has an acoustic windshield and acoustic front side windows. So that really helps keep out the noise. There's a lot of sound deadening material in here. There's also active noise canceling in here. So there's just all different ways to help isolate the cabin from wind and road noise. Road noise is very low. Wind noise is very, very low. This is a quiet, comfortable car. It also rides really well, especially in the touring driving mode. This has a supple ride, soaking up all the bumps and lumps in the road with no trouble at all. And there's also plenty of room for folks in the second row. So this would be a fantastic highway cruiser for you and a few of your friends. And I still haven't touched the steering wheel. Okay, so what do I think of this third generation Buick Enclave? I have to say, I really like it. This is a very sharp looking SUV. I think it looks modern and sleek. They did a fantastic job of taking components of the Wildcat EV and transforming them into a production ready vehicle that works. One of the advantages of the Enclave is that it is such a long thing. Lines don't have to be stunted or cramped or scrunched together. Things have time to flow. This thing is long and wide, and there's just like a bigger canvas basically to work with to really make the design function well. Plus, it's thoroughly modern in here. Google Assistant, this beautiful LED display, LED headlights, LED taillights, a lot of nice functions, and they operate smoothly and quickly. And this thing is really quiet. The cabin isolation in this car is Cadillac level, and that makes it high-end German car level. The chassis, I think it's fair to say, is completely competent. It's not engaging, it's not fun or quick reacting or anything like that, but it is thoroughly comfortable in all the situations I've driven it in, and it always performs consistently. Then the fact that you can do things like push button all-wheel drive, and of course, having the ability to get Super Cruise on this car is definitely a nice option. No, this is not the SUV for the young and the hip among us, but it is a very comfortable, quiet, competent, and attractive choice for everybody else. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.